I always thought the wildest thing I'd ever survive would be getting shot at in Afghanistan, but let me tell you, nothing prepared me for a parking lot war with a woman in designer sunglasses and a clipboard. No kidding. If someone had told me a year ago that a suburban HOA president would become a bigger threat to my sanity than enemy fire, I would have spit out my coffee laughing. But I'm not laughing now. Not after what happened with Karen Wilson. You want the real story? Buckle up, because this gets ridiculous, then a little scary, and then, honestly, kind of satisfying. Let me back up a sec. When I first moved into Oakwood Estate, this supposed quiet complex with its neat lawns and mailboxes that all match, I was desperate for some peace. I just wrapped up my third deployment, the one that left me with a titanium rod in my leg and an award for stubbornness from my physical therapist. I was limping on my cane, going to the VA twice a week, and just hoping for a place where nobody would look at me twice. The VA set me up with a ground floor, 2-bedroom unit, and, crucial for me, a legally assigned disabled parking spot right by my building. Doctor's orders, until I could walk better, which, honestly, felt like never some days. You know what my welcome to the neighborhood was? Not a basket of muffins. Not a let me know if you need help. Nah, I was Karen Wilson, HOA president, self-declared queen of Oakwood, master of fake smiles. She strolled up on my second day, sized me up with a glance that took in the cane, the disabled placard hanging from my mirror, and gave me a grin so plastic it might have been shrink-wrapped. "This spot's usually for permanent disabilities, you know," she said, voice sweet as Splenda but sharp enough to slice bread. I held up my paperwork, figuring that'd be the end of it. Rules are rules, right? Yeah, that happened. I might as well have thrown gasoline on a barbecue. Within 48 hours, the harassment started. First, a sticky note on my windshield. Please use normal parking when feeling better. Others need the spot too. Next day, an official-looking violation slip. Only the building manager told me, straight up, it wasn't even real. Karen had printed it herself, probably in that office with all her motivational cat posters. That's when I installed a dash cam, thinking, better safe than sorry. Should have known she'd switch tactics. Suddenly, Karen's waging psychological warfare, loud comments at the mailbox about some people milking the system, or how her cousin had a bad leg but never needed special treatment. She started asking nosy questions in front of other residents, making jokes about how tough guys these days need all kinds of accommodations. Every day, another little jab. It wore me down, not gonna lie. I tried explaining, showing her the doctor's note, the official HOA paperwork. Nothing worked. In fact, the more I tried to play nice, the nastier she got. 3 weeks in, I finally snapped. Filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, thinking they'd put her in check. Their response, "Karen handles parking." Good luck. That's when I realized she'd been living there 15 years, knew everyone's dirty laundry, and ran the board like her own private kingdom. No one wanted to cross her, especially over a guy limping around on a cane. It all came to a head last Saturday. I was running late for physical therapy, shuffling my way to the lot, only to find Karen standing in my disabled spot, her teenage son's BMW idling behind her like a getaway car. She gave me that sugary smile again, said, "He needs the spot to move heavy furniture, I'm sure you understand." I told her, as politely as I could manage, that I couldn't walk from the far end of the lot that day. My knee was already on fire. Her face went ice cold in a heartbeat. "Do you know who I am?" she hissed, so only I could hear. "I decide where people park around here." By this point, a few neighbors had gathered. Someone, bless their heart, yelled out, "It's his spot." Karen stepped closer, dropped her voice even lower, and whispered, "You have no idea who you're messing with." I didn't, not yet. Later that afternoon, after a brutal therapy session, I limped back to my place and spotted Karen sitting in her white SUV, parked across the lot, engine running. She was just staring at my car, not moving, not blinking. I stepped onto the sidewalk and, I swear, the next thing I knew, her engine revved. For a split second, my brain refused to believe what was happening, but then it clicked. She floored it, aimed her SUV straight at my Honda, and just smashed into it. It sounded like an explosion. Screeching tires, glass shattering, metal crunching so loud it felt like the whole world stopped. My car, My only way to therapy was just mangled. I stood there, hands shaking on my cane, my mind doing that slow motion thing where nothing seems real. But it was. Karen, president of the HOA, had just rammed her own car into mine, in broad daylight, in front of half the neighborhood. The SUV door flew open, and Karen stormed out shrieking, "You think you can disrespect my rules? You think your little disability spot makes you special?" Neighbors poured out from every direction, phones up, recording. My heart was pounding, my head spinning. She was absolutely losing it, yelling how I'd provoked her, how I was trouble from day one. Mrs. Patel from Unit 12, sweet lady, always brings samosas to the community potluck, pointed her phone right at Karen and said, voice steady as a rock, "We all saw you accelerate." Don't lie. That's when Mr. Guzman stepped in, big guy, retired firefighter, and put himself between us. "Every one of us has seen how you treat him. Enough is enough." Karen's eyes darted around, looking for backup, but everyone just kept filming. Now, here's where Karen made her fatal mistake. She started shouting, "I'm the HOA president. This community listens to me. I decide who parks where. I decide the rules." What she didn't know was my dash cam had caught the whole thing. Every frame, every word. I dialed 911. Turns out, so did about 5 other people. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up. Officer Reynolds, young but all business, took my statement. Her partner was talking to the crowd, gathering videos. Karen wouldn't stop yelling, insisting I was the real problem, that I'd manipulated everyone. Officer Reynolds finally snapped, "Ma'am, if you interrupt again, you will be detained." Karen opened her mouth, saw the officer's hand near her cuffs, and for once shut up. When they reviewed my dash cam footage, everything changed. Both officers walked over to Karen. "Karen Wilson, you're under arrest for criminal damage, reckless endangerment, and assault with a deadly weapon." You should have seen her face. "What? No. I'm the HOA president. You can't arrest me." But they did. Handcuffed her right there on video, with the whole neighborhood watching. She looked more stunned than if she'd been tossed. That night, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Witnesses, evidence, videos, and my lawyer, who came armed with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The board, most of whom had clearly been terrified of Karen for years, voted unanimously to remove her as president. 3 days later, at her arraignment, the prosecutor threw the book at her, adding hate crime enhancements since she targeted me as a disabled veteran. The judge denied every request to reduce the charges. Karen now faced up to 7 years in prison. The look on her face when she realized nobody was going to save her, that's the moment I finally felt safe. For the first time since I'd moved in, the air in Oakwood felt lighter. People actually smiled at me in the hallways. Mr. Guzman stopped by with homemade salsa. Mrs. Patel left a note inviting me over for dinner. Even folks who'd never spoken to me before started waving, asking how I was healing, if I needed anything. Funny twist. Turns out the new HOA president is this quiet accountant named Ray, who'd been Karen's treasurer for years. At the next board meeting, he handed me an apology letter on behalf of the whole association, plus a gift card for car repairs. I'm not saying it fixed everything, but it sure beat another fake violation slip. And Karen, last I heard, she's awaiting trial, banned from setting foot in Oakwood, and get this, her own son moved out 2 weeks after the incident. Word is he's staying with his dad across town, told everyone he's done with the drama. Can you blame him? You know, I never wanted to be the center of attention. I just wanted a place to heal, maybe make a few friends. I got way more than I bargained for. But I guess if there's one thing I learned in all this, whether it's a war zone or a parking lot, sometimes standing your ground is the only way to get real justice. So now I gotta ask, where do you draw the line? Would you have fought back or just let it go? Ever dealt with an HOA tyrant or a neighbor from hell? Drop your wildest story or opinion in the comments, and while you're at it, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next round of real-life drama. Because honestly, you couldn't make this stuff up if you tried.